Welcome to Scoop World Order. It is Tuesday. It is Happy Edric Houston Day. Number one player in America is committing to Ohio State this evening. A lot to break down. We're going to go through his video a little bit. We're going to go through what Ryan Day had to say yesterday about the quarterback derby, about camp being over, about the plan going forward to get ready to beat the Indiana Hoosiers out at Bloomington in less than 2 weeks. It's going to be here before you know it. So we're going to get into that. But first, as always, we're very thankful. We're very grateful for you guys. We appreciate you guys, as always, tuning in. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe, and also click that little alert bell so that you get alert when we go live. A little earlier today, got a little bit of work to do tonight, so we're going to get this thing in. And in the comments, I want to know not only where you're from, but who is going to start a quarterback for the Indiana game. It's going to be Kyle McCord. It's going to be Devin Brown. The Heisman odds have changed. The odds to start the first game have changed dramatically in Vegas. A lot of smoke. I mean, a lot of Devin Brown smoke coming. He's been the better player in camp, so it's going to be real interesting. A lot of people thought this was going to be a coronation for Kyle McCord. He's going to walk in to be the number one quarterback as a guy who's a year older, a guy who started a game before. But Devin Brown had different ideas, so we're going to get into that as well. So with that being said, I have to bring in my good friend Nevada. Nevada, how are you today?
Doing great. Happy Edric Houston Day to you. This is a big day. It's not every day that we get the number one player in the country to commit. Now, again, this is recruiting in 2023. No. So this could be the kiss of death that we're giving to Ohio State right now on the Edric Houston to Ohio State news. But from all accounts, if everything happens the way that it should be, we should be celebrating an Edric Houston commitment here very, very shortly. Enough to do an emergency podcast during the day, as an emergency super secret podcast here during the day, and this is a big deal. This is the guy. You know, I'm excited about every commit, but this is the guy that I wanted more than anybody. I think he's the number one player in the country, and I think when you watch him on tape, I think people would agree.
Think that, you know, in modern recruiting, anything can happen. Any bag can get dropped off. Things can change. Again, I've seen it all in recruiting. I've seen guys that we've lost to the coach leaves, goes to the NFL, coach retires, coach gets fired, and then magically it opens back up. So anything can happen, especially in the age of NIL. But this is a kid that we're going to get tonight. He loves Larry Johnson. Again, as much as Larry Johnson gets crapped on when we lose guys, we got a 5-star defensive tackle and a 5-star defensive end in this class once Houston commits. So I have him and Justin Scott. That's as good of a pair as we've had, I think. I mean, I can't imagine a pair of recruits that we've gotten to come out of high school. Obviously, the Bosas were amazing. Chase Young was fantastic. He wasn't as much of a finished product as Nick Bosa was, but obviously, number 2 pick in the draft, fantastic player. But Houston he's of that ilk. He's a speed rusher, a lot of talent. Honestly, I'm just going to be real transparent. I'm terrified that he's in the state of Georgia, and the Georgia Bulldogs have just been pouring it on, and Georgia really cares about football. Georgia has the highest recruiting budget in the country. They've won 2 straight national championships. That is not some sort of there's a relationship to how well you recruit and how many championships you win. And, you know, he's right down the street in Buford, but they lost KJ Bolden. Obviously, Dylan Raiola has transferred in there for his senior year. And they're about to lose Edric Houston. So it's a little interesting, but, you know, just because he commits to Ohio State doesn't mean that Kirby Smart's going to stop calling and Nick Saban's going to stop calling, and, you know, all of the other regulars are going to stop calling. So, but again, kudos to Larry Johnson. A lot of people bag on Larry. I love Larry Johnson. I've coached against his D-line. I've played against his D-line. His guys always play hard. They're always technically sound. They're always, if they're not the best D-line in the country or in the Big Ten or in the country, they're in the top 3 or 4 or 5 in the nation. Penn State always brought the wood when we played them. We knew that. So again, if my kid was an athletic defensive lineman, he's the guy I want coaching him, because I think that he does a fantastic job developing kids. I think that his technical stuff is amazing. And I would have said that when he was coaching at Penn State. So when he came to Ohio State, I thought it was fantastic. And the proof is in the pudding. You know, I think that this is going to be a big year for Jack and JT Tuimoloau and some of these guys, Mike Hall, Ty Leak, Ty Hamilton, a lot of growth there. Hio Kanu is coming on. I think that our backup ends too. KJ has really had a great camp, Kenyatta Jackson. So it's going to be interesting to see if this kid sticks. how much does he play next year? I mean, if Jack Sawyer keeps the momentum going, there's a chance he's a 3-and-out guy. I think JT's already gone. He's already a guy that most people expect to declare. So there's going to be room at the end for young, talented ends. If we have Caden Curry and KJ starting next year, you're going to need this kid to play a lot. So Nevada, of all the guys that we've gotten, who are some of the guys that have shocked you the most? Because like pulling a kid from Buford, Georgia, after Georgia's won 2 state titles, and it's a defensive-oriented program, it shocks me to a degree. Obviously, KJ Bolden would have been a fantastic kid. He ended up going to Florida State. But who are some of those shocking recruits in your lifetime, based on their proximity to a good school, being from the South, whatever? Who are some of the shocking recruits that you've dealt with in your 30 years of following recruiting?
Well, I mean, Von Bell obviously comes to mind. It's one that I think all of us kind of remember. It's kind of like we remember where we were when Reagan was shot and when the Challenger blew up, and where we were when we heard that Von Bell had committed to Ohio State. So those like the three big seminal events in any recruitnik's memory banks. But no, that was a shocker to me because it seemingly, we were competing against all the big boys, competing, like you said, deep down in the South, it's a little bit harder. But, with Edric Houston, I mean, Ohio State's been his dream school since he was little. This has been the school he's wanted to go to. It's where he's been, solely focused on it. And it's not like we haven't grabbed other kids out of Georgia and, done really well with them and been able to get them up to Ohio State. But I agree with you. You're always nervous. I'll be nervous tonight when they commit, or this afternoon. I'll be nervous until they sign. And frankly, even then, you're nervous with the portal until they actually hit the field and finish out their playing time at Ohio State. So it's I'm not sure how these coaches do it now, because it used to just be getting them signed and then you really could kind of storm away and not worry about them anymore, man. It's like you got to keep recruiting the kids, you got to keep recruiting the families, you got to keep convincing them of a path to the field. And it's a never-ending 24/7, 365 process. But this is, I mean, I love this kid. I mean, you hate to make comparisons like this, but when I first watched this tape, my first thought was Aaron Donald. And that's, when you watch Aaron Donald play, you're like, wow, I mean, go back and we should go back and for fun, pull Aaron Donald's high school tape and watch this kid and tell me he's not a spinning image of him. I think he's a high impact player that can play, three different locations on the line, and super productive at the highest level of Georgia high school football. And I think he's going to be a fantastic Buckeye.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a fantastic player. I'm really excited to see what he can get done. For me, I think that Ohio State was ahead of the curve when it came to recruiting Georgia. I think Georgia's been the most talented state in the country for probably 15, 20 years now. But it wasn't as well known for whatever reason. I think that Georgia, the Georgia Bulldogs being maybe the most underachieving program of the 2010s, 2000s era, the Mark Richt era. I mean, that was a team that had just massive amounts of talent, and they never really won anything. They won a Sugar Bowl against Colt Brennan, but for as much talent as they had and as many NFL players as they had like Marcus Stroud and some of these guys that were just absolute monsters. Like they didn't really win anything. David Pollock. But Stafford, I mean, they had like AJ Green, I mean, No Sean, they had some really good players, but combined, they didn't win anything. But it's like almost like they discovered, hey, the best football in the country is played in the state of Georgia. And now all of a sudden the recruiting rankings reflect that. And these guys get a little bit of a bump because the schools are really, it's the best combination of super high end talent with super high end coaching. Cause in some states like Florida, you get super high-end talent, usually not great coaching. Georgia, you get that combo of both. And give Jim Tressel a lot of credit, because Jim Tressel was ahead of the curve, because we went down and got Cam Hayward, who should have been a 5-star number one player in the country, and he was a 4-star, didn't have the mega offers that you would expect a guy like Cam Hayward to have. He had good offers, but they weren't like the USCs. Back then it was like USC, Oklahoma, Florida, like those types of schools. He didn't have those schools. So we pulled him. We pulled Roby. Bradley Roby's a first-round pick. He's still in the league, year 10 or 11 or something like that. And, he's a first-round pick. And we beat Vanderbilt on Bradley Roby, which is amazing because I'm just telling you, sometimes these guys just don't understand the talent. And Roby, he was a different cat. I loved Roby. But it was always kind of a question when we got him, like, how was this kid only getting recruited by Vanderbilt and we took him, and then he ends up being, he leaves after 4 years, first round pick, second big contract. He's playing for the Saints now. So it was just interesting because I think if Bradley Roby played in today's Georgia, he'd have been a high 4-star, 5-star. He'd have had Georgia, Bama, LSU. He didn't have that back then because I think that Georgia was a little less heralded by the national recruiting types, and now that is not the case. Now Georgia is well known for producing great football. Well, we're going to get into some of the interesting stuff that Ryan Day talked about yesterday in his press conference. One of the things I thought was really interesting is that he said that he conducted a straw poll amongst the coaches, and they said they were split right down the middle on who they should pick at quarterback. Nevada, do you think that actually happened? And do you think that Ryan Day actually cares what his 9th and 8th assistants think in the quarterback race? Because that was kind of peculiar, because I feel like Ryan is the guy, the judge, jury, and the executioner when it comes to picking the quarterback, because that is his baby. He's had the track record of developing first round guys. Frankly, if I was Ryan Day, and I have to sign my name to the program and I'm the head coach, like, that's my decision. I don't care what anybody else says. Now, obviously you can get a little bit of input from everybody else, but what do you think his thought process is on picking between Devin Brown and Kyle McCord for that first start?
Well, I think the vote probably was pretty close because Ryan Day holds 51% of the vote and everybody else holds 49%. So it probably was pretty even at that point. But no, there wasn't a straw poll. No, it's not really broken down evenly. But in that situation, that is the artful, smart, intelligent, sober thing to do and sober way to present this. You've got to present this as a horse race. Because, frankly, it is a horse race until these guys go live. They've been playing with the black no-contact jersey. You put them in live these first 2 games. You figure out what these guys can do. One of them, distance himself from the other one. They get the reps in game 3, and then in Notre Dame, you're ready to go and ready to rock and roll. But I think Dave's playing this perfectly. But as for the straw poll, no, that was coach speak for, hey, I want to keep both guys engaged. I want both guys to really, realize that they've got a chance to be a player in this. And look, it's going to come down to your performance ultimately, as it always does. I think if performance is close in the first 2 games, he's going to go Devin Brown because Devin Brown's got more upside. I think everybody knows that. I think it's going to take McCord playing well and Brown playing bad to upend the order at this point. As for who's going to take the first snap, though, said this before, still riding with McCord to take the first snap. So if you're betting that on DraftKings or something like that, I'd bet McCord to take the first snap against IU, because that just feels like a Ryan Day thing to do, and I think that's the way he'll play it.
Yeah, I think it's the safer thing to do. I think it's like Cardell versus JT in 2015, where Cardell's the guy that won the title. Cardell's the older guy. Cardell's the guy that forgoed going to the draft. JT obviously was only going to be a redshirt sophomore that year. So, despite JT being better and being Cardell out at every turn, they went with Cardell because, again, it was the safer pick. He's the older guy. They said they'd let him start if he came back and didn't go pro. Again, when he did that, I said that was an absolute huge mistake, because if you can fool an NFL team into taking the first or second round because of your 3-game stretch, then God bless you, because that's life-changing money. Because I like some guys, they've got warts, and the longer they play, or if they get benched, then all of a sudden, their stock drops like a rock. Because Cardell's stock was never going to be higher than after he beat Alabama and beat Oregon back-to-back games. Huge arm, threw for a lot, ran for a lot, was a difference maker. I was worried of JT because I thought JT was a better player. He ran the offense better. He's smoother. He could really throw the ball. In 14, he threw for a lot of yards. He was a silver football, big, I mean, first team all Big Ten quarterback. So, there was a risk there. I think McCord is the safe pick. He's the older guy. He's the guy that started a game. Marvin Harrison's quarterback, in high school. But I just think Devin's got the upside, and at the end of the day, it's like The Bachelorette. I mean, you only get one rose. There's only one guy that gets to play quarterback that first snap. And, the second they inform the other guy, there's going to be, a little bit of a downer there, a little bit of depression there, just because they've both fought so hard, but only one gets to take the first snap. And again, is that the be all end all? No, obviously things can change in a heartbeat. You got to stay ready to go. You got to stay up, but It's going to be fascinating to watch. Again, I think that Devin Brown is the better, more talented quarterback. I think he's the guy that we can win a national championship with. I know that people inside the Woody Hayes have said he's the guy that can win the Heisman. I haven't heard that about Kyle McCord. I've heard about Devin. So, those are the guys that are at practice every day. Those guys whose lives depend upon the team being good and the quarterback being good. So it's a different world. So it'll be interesting to see how they manage it. Do they rotate it? Is it every 4 series or so? Does the guy who's the starter, does he perform? And if he doesn't perform, has a couple turnovers, how quick of a hook does Ryan Day have? So there's a lot of fascinating elements to this. I think that, again, the schedule is fantastic this year because you start off with kind of a medium to low medium difficulty type, and then all of a sudden you get low difficulty, and then you get medium high difficulty with Notre Dame on the road. So it'll be interesting to see how they play this and the statistics of both in the first game, because I imagine they're both going to play. I imagine that Ryan, if he's truly undecided, which I don't really believe that he is. What's the spread? Is it 70-30? Is it 60-40, 50-50 of the snaps? Because I think that'll be fascinating to watch, and it'll be fascinating to see who moves the ball better. And it's not necessarily just throwing it, like who moves the chains, who can run, who can scramble, who can create. And that's all an advantage to Devin Brown. So I'm really excited to see that. Nevada, you talked a little bit about some of the underheralded guys in camp. There's a lot of them. Who are some of the guys that you thought had good camps that kind of came on strong to be potential depth pieces? Obviously, we've talked ad nauseum about the starters, about Dave Sangbenosin and what he's done to the team. But who are some of the depth guys you've talked about that could really add to this as the stretch begins for the Big Ten title?
Well, we posted a nugget today for members of BuckeyeScoop.com with kind of a list of some of the unheralded guys, because like you said, the first team, the second team guys get run a lot. But the one guy that I want to mention that doesn't get a lot of run, doesn't get a lot talked about, was relatively unheralded guy coming out of high school. That's Malik Hartford. Malik Hartford is a football player, man. I mean, that guy came into a deep defensive backfield, with portal guys coming in and 6-year guys coming back and starters coming back, and Sonny Styles lobbying for kind of a hybrid type of safety type of position, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And he's a player. I mean, he is really good. Had he been more highly regarded, I think people would be talking about him, potentially being one of those guys that has to see the field this year. And I think he's been good enough this fall that he has to see the field this year. I mean, it is not inconceivable that this kid could start by the end of the year. I mean, he's that good. He'll make his impact on special teams. He'll make his impact when he's out there playing with the second unit. But he's a football player. The guys that have gone out and watched cannot believe that he's not an upperclassman, cannot believe that he's not a draft-eligible guy. He's that good. And it just goes to show you, recruiting, you got to recruit well to win those national championships. But recruiting's not a perfect science, and certainly sometimes guys come in a little bit, underrated or whatever you want to call it. This would be a prime example of this, because this is a 5-star talent for a kid with freshman eligibility that's running around back there. He doesn't look like a freshman. I mean, he is one heck of a football player, and it's certainly a name to be watching for.
Yeah, I think guys like him, guys like Hero Kanu, like some of these young guys that you need as depth pieces as the season goes on. Because again, there's going to be some new blood back there. I mean, Chad Carter's been dinged up in camp. He missed all spring, so question the durability there. So, I mean, guys are you got Proctor back there. He's a guy that he's been kind of all over the map in his career, and hopefully he has a big year this year or he can contribute in some fashion. But there's open opportunity in the back end of the defense. Obviously Sonny's a guy that got written in ink. Be interesting to see how much they play at corner at nickel. That's something that they talked about yesterday. Jim Knowles talked about getting Jordan Hancock in at nickel, which I think is smart. I thought something that was really interesting that Jim Knowles talked about is how he's developed himself schematically to keep plays in front of these guys. A little bit less man coverage. That means that we're going to be running some zone defense, and it's going to be less man. I'm sure we'll still run man because that's what he's predicated on. But when he says keep stuff in front of you, that means we're going to play more zone. We're not going to be man where guys can just blow past guys and you put guys in precarious situations. Man's a much riskier way of playing football. Generally, you're going to blitz or help out with a single high. But you play some zone. Generally, you're going to give up stuff underneath, but you're going to keep guys in front of you. You're not going to give up the big plays. It's better in run support. So again, it's going to be fascinating to see how that evolves. I thought Jim Knowles really did a good job at the podium yesterday. He's a guy that, he owns it. He's a guy that owns when you screw up. And the thing about the game of football is everybody gets whipped in football. It's impossible not to. Bill Belichick's gotten whipped, Saban, Lombardi, like anyone. If you've ever played the game of football, you've been whipped and whooped at some point, and that's just part of the game. And he took it like a man, and he said, "Hey, look, I have to evolve as a coach. I have to learn. My staff has to. We all have to be better." So I'm really excited about it, because I think that top to bottom, this defense is as deep as I've seen in years, maybe since probably 19. 19 had a great team, obviously super high-end guys with guys like Chase and Okuda and Fuller, Baron Browning, some guys that were great players that didn't get as much run as they probably should have while they were at Ohio State, but they're getting a lot of run in the NFL now. So I'm really excited to see what these guys can do. I think that Jack Sawyer, again, back-to-back Player of the Day awards. I think they went away a little bit away from the participation trophy. They turned it more into a production award, and ultra productive scrimmage. Didn't play a lot, but was really productive. Friday, dominant. And he's just been a dominator since he's been able to put his hand back on the ground. So it'll be really interesting to see what they do with him, what they do with Mitchell Mettle and CJ Hicks and the Jack. There's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to be really interesting to watch when we get to week 1 versus Indiana. But I'm really excited about this defense. Nevada, I know that, again, you're the conductor of the Jim Knowles bandwagon. Again, I just look at the talent. I look at the returning guys. I look at the motivating factors from, the last 2 games, which weren't up to the standard that they try to set. And, they've heard about that all year. And, when you get to play Indiana and Bloomington, you get to do something about it. What are you most excited to watch with the 2023 Ohio State defense?
Well, I just want to see I want to see the front four. I want to see how stout those interior guys are. And I want to see the production out of those, highly touted defensive ends. We've seen Jack. You don't get higher ranked than Jack Sawyer or JT who were coming out of high school. I mean, that's 10 stars plus coming out of high school right there. And we just haven't seen the production to match. And I'm excited to see it. We've seen it in practice. Frankly, though, we saw it in practice last year. And, the practice performance didn't necessarily equate to, on-field game dominance. Do I think it's going to happen this year? I truly, truly do. I'd be willing to bet money that it does, but I want to see it. And I want to see, we've got, a lot of active guys on the interior line, but I want to see that, can we hold the point? Do we have enough big bodies to dominate those interior line battles that are so important to stopping the running game? To me, it's all going to start up front. Can we pressure with 4? Can we hold the point of attack on the run, and can we keep those offensive linemen off of our linebackers, that our linebackers flow to the ball and make tackles? So that's what I'm looking for. To me, that'll be the key to the 2023 season, and I think we're going to do a good job of it. But I want to see it.
Yeah, I think the key is just making teams one-dimensional again, being able to stop the run. Stopping the run is the key to football. It always has been, always will be. When we get to Wisconsin, we get to Michigan. If you can make those teams one-dimensional, and they can throw it up to Davison and Denzel Burke and our safeties, and they can get some picks, and that's how you play football. So I'm really excited to see the depth of our guys and the interior. I'm excited to see guys like Tywan Malone, guys like Hero. Ty Hamilton, I think, is going to have a huge year. Can Mike Hall get back to that game 1 form from last year when he looked like a first-team All-American, and then he got dinged up and he was out, and just kind of, 15 play. Like, he's got to be a 35, 40 play a game guy. And that's what he has to do to make that big jump into the league. I mean, he's got a lot of motivation right now. These guys see their names in the mock drafts, first round. It's a gift and a curse, because you're going to be the targeted guy, but you should want that when you're Mike and Jack and Ty Leak, JT. These guys are the guys that have to set the tone up front for the defense. Well, we're going to wrap this. Again, this is going to be a little bit of a quicker one, but we got the number 1 recruit in the country committing to Ohio State tonight. I believe it's around 7. So I'll hear from Edric Houston. Nevada, any closing thoughts as we get into the +1 week of game week? Tuesday practice, I'm sure, is going on, or it's either done or around. I don't know if they started school yet, but Tuesday practice, I'm sure, is getting knocked out today. Then they got Wednesday, Thursday. Be interesting to see what they do Friday, if they do a walkthrough, and they scrimmage Saturday, have a light scrimmage Saturday if they let the guys go home. A lot of times in the past, you let the guys go home on Friday so they can go to their high school game. But it'll be real interesting to see how Ryan Day handles this +1 week, because I think you can grind the guys a little bit, and then you can get them into game prep going into Monday of next week. But your thoughts as we wrap the show?
No, I'm just looking forward to seeing the first depth chart. I think normally the depth chart doesn't really say much, and it's, a lot of times, all the positions are set, and so it's really just kind of something that's perfunctory. But I think this year the depth chart's going to be really telling, going to really be able to tell some stories, and so I'm looking forward to seeing that. And I'm really excited about the Edric Houston thing tonight. It's not often you get a player of this caliber committed to Ohio State. This stuff doesn't happen every day, so be excited about it. It's going to be a good day for the Buckeyes.
Totally agree. Well, we're going to wrap this show. Appreciate you guys. A little bit of a midday treat for you guys. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Edric Houston tonight around 7. All the coverage will be on BuckeyeScoop.com. I hope you guys are ready to tune into it. We'll have Bill Greene, his reaction to it. So it should be a huge day for Ohio State. If you guys enjoyed the show, please leave us a like, click subscribe, and also click on that little bell so you get the alert when we go live, like we did today. But we appreciate you guys so much. If you guys want the #1 website for Ohio State sports, BuckeyeScoop.com needs to be your new home. Great companion, a lot of great intel, a lot of great betting stuff, a lot of great game threads. It is football season, ladies and gentlemen. It is time to make the move and enhance your experience and make it that premium experience that you deserve, that your friends deserve, that your family deserves. It's a great gift. So I'd love to see you on BuckeyeScoop.com. About to jump on there right now. As always, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. Shout out where you guys are from, where you guys are watching from. I love seeing that. And I'll check in with you guys later this week. Go Bucks.